everyone. Welcome to the Mama Genius Hub podcast. We're here with Lucie Quigley, whose episode gets released today, 1 p.m. Central, and the title is Healing Through Release, A Mama's Guide to Letting Go and Thriving. So we're here to talk a little bit about that, but just if you're in the audience right now live with us at any point, feel free to top in the chat, ask a couple questions. We'd be happy to answer your question along the way. If not, we're just going to keep chit-chatting because that's what we do. Lucie Q and I have been having so much fun together, but this is new for me. So I'm finding her bio right now because I'm going to actually read it. I haven't read it in a long time to everyone. So before I can introduce her, let's do it properly. Meet Lucie, the fabulous, relatable mom next door. Just like countless others, she faced a midlife crisis, or what she calls a midlife meltdown. I love that. But Lucie wasn't willing to let the grips of midlife emotional turmoil keep her down. She took a leap of faith, embarked on her journey of self-discovery, and turned her darkest days into the greatest gifts. I want to hear all about that. Filled by her incredible transformation, Lucie leaped into action to connect and empower midlife moms through her successful podcast, The Roller Coaster of Midlife, which I have been a guest on, and the Stir-Sewing Guided Journal, Your Journaling Journey. Now, with her sights set on inspiring others, Lucie is eager to share her wisdom and help midlife moms go from hot mess to not only other than a badass. Stay tuned for her new book. Your second chapter begins when you discover you've been the author all along. So I am so excited to have you. I feel like it's full circle because Lucie and I met as I was a guest on her podcast. And now, after all this time of us working together and just co-moderating, that I was able to finally say, here's my podcast. So I'm so excited to have her on here to celebrate it with me.
Michelle, I want to start off. First of all, thank you for having me and congratulations. It isn't easy following your dreams. It takes courage and it takes dedication. And you and I have been sharing our stories, our challenges, and our triumphs of living a life of purpose. And I just wanted to take a moment to applaud everything that you've accomplished because that is exactly why we're here.
I receive that. I really do because I think as women, we forget the receiving part. And so I'm just saying thank you, Lucie, for acknowledging that in me and for saying it out loud. And I truly and utterly just want to take those words in right now. And I think as women, we just need to do that more often. No more like, oh, the excuses of what could be or what it is. Right now, we're on this podcast episode together. Well, actually, it's released. The podcast episode's releasing. This is our Q&A. Episode's already done. It's out there. I'm so excited. Well, almost out there. I'm so excited. Thank you, Lucie. And so on that note, oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, you go ahead. You go ahead.
No. I was just.
I forgot what I was going to say anyways.
I was just going to say on that note, let's dive right in because like we've had that conversation a lot about letting go of the trauma and the healing and just letting go of things. And so we're just going to kind of continue that. And if you're in the audience right now, hi there, first of all. Second of all, feel free to just throw your comments in the chat and questions. And we'd love to like dive into whatever you might be wondering or wanting to know. If not, again, like I said before, we're just going to keep chatting because that's what we do. And so I think right before we got on, right as we were getting ready for this call, we were talking about it's Christmas early for Lucie today. And I loved the way that you described what you were doing with the intention of your home. And I think that is so ingrained in the idea of letting go right now because it's creating something new with what we might think isn't that way. And so I want you to share that story. I'm putting you on the spot.
I think for all of us, I think we need to take the time to realize that we really need to have our homes as our sanctuary, because this is where we come back. And, if you're working outside the home, or even, if you're working from home or stay-at-home mom, you still need that space enable for you to reconnect and recharge and to be the best version of yourself. And truly, I don't think we give enough credit to our homes. And it was a little while ago, my husband and I were talking about, we talk about travel and then we wouldn't, and different things were going on. And I said, listen, I want our home to be a place that we don't feel that we have to vacation from. We're very lucky. We live in a rural part of Nova Scotia, Canada. We are right on the coast at the end of my beach. I kid you not. It's a 5-minute drive. It's it's Canada, so I'm going to say it's a 5-kilometer white sand beach. I don't know how long that is in miles, but it's a big, beautiful beach where we often go to recharge and to sort of replenish ourselves. And I said, I want our home to be like that as well. And that's what we've started doing is we started taking the steps to transform our home into that vacation like spot. And today it was exciting because after years of waiting, I finally got my hot tub delivered, which is, it's a major undertaking, but you don't have to start there. You can turn your home into your own sanctuary by buying some really nice sheets. I mean, we spend a lot of time in bed. Why not have the most beautiful, comfortable sleep that you can have? Just start in small places. Maybe you buy some really awesome towels. I'm a big nerd when it comes to my towels. I actually spa roll all of my towels so that when I open the towel
I
closet,
swear I want to do a video with you just how to do that because I need help.
I love to open my closet. Now the rest of the closet can be, not quite as tidy, but where my towels are, it's just got that little sort of spa feeling in there. And it's these little touches that we do that can really transform, our home or any room in it from just a space to a sanctuary.
And I do want to preface that you do have your kids out of the house,
Well,
but
one
you
is.
have the older one there, yeah, right?
Yeah,
But he's much older, right? So with the little kids running around,
he's 21.
yeah, well, yeah. So you got the
He's
21-year-old
big.
there still. But for those of you thinking, oh, with all the little kids running around, I can't do that. What I want to say is just pick one corner or one spot that's just your spot. That's the part that feels like your sanctuary. It doesn't have to be the entire house. Again, this is just a process. So even if it's just one candle high up that the kids can't reach, you can come downstairs, light your candle in the morning and drink your coffee and gets a minute or two of peace before everyone else comes down. That's the sanctuary we're starting with. Like we're talking about, where like it helps to let go of some of that stress. And that's what this is all about. The art of letting go is we're releasing what we can so we don't keep that energy, and that we want to circulate the energy and not make sure it's stale. And so even just those little things. So for instance, this morning with my girls, I don't know if I've even told Lucy this, but since last Friday in the morning, I've been doing mini women's circles with my girls, the three of
Aw.
us. And we've been adding on to it every day. And so we started actually with lighting this candle in the morning the first time. And then I remembered that I had these cards, I am enough. They are a little bit more challenging for the girls. One of them will try to read it and then I'll have to interpret what it means to ask them the question. But they love just having the cards, and it has a little talking stick in there as well. And then today, I don't know if you, but I had these 3 big candles I forgot about. And I brought all 3 of them out and we each just pot them down. Like, each one of you can light your own candle today, so we don't have to fight over who's blowing out, who's lighting. Get your own. And they were so excited and participated in the conversation of it. And I mean, it took all of the whole process, probably 10 minutes or less than that. But it set our morning up and made it more like the way to start our day. So it's these little things we're talking about. How do we make those peaceful moments throughout our day more often, rather than saying like it's so hectic all the time?
Yeah, and you brought up a good point about how you're choosing to start your day. And you know me, I'm a massive journaler. And even when I didn't have a space in my home, when not only both the kids were living with us, but also my son's girlfriend, it was a busy house and it wasn't a big house. So every space was taken up. But I still carved out the time for my sacred morning ritual of journaling. I had a chair in the living room. Like you said, I made my coffee. I'd light a candle and I'd cuddle up in this really nice, luxurious blanket. I mean, it felt luxurious, but I think you can pick them up for 20, $30, those faux fur ones.
Yeah.
And I would cuddle up in the blanket and I would do my journaling. And that little corner at that particular point in time was my sacred space. Now, later on, sure, I might have teenagers flopping all over there, but at that point in time, that was my space. And I kept everything there. Like you said, the candle that was there, the blanket was there, my journal was there, so that all I had to do was sit down and I could begin my journey.
And I love that. And actually, it was funny. I was actually listening to a Jenna Kutcher podcast, and I can't even remember the title of it, but it was like somewhere in the 640s or something. Essentially, there's so many out there. But my friend sent it to this morning and talking about like that sometimes we get stuck on that. It has to be in the morning. but especially as busy moms, using the word reset. And so even if it's not first thing in the morning, maybe it's as soon as the kids are out the door that you reset with that journaling or the meditation or that cup of coffee in peace before you start the rest of your stuff, not thinking that you have to be productive like right away. So it doesn't necessarily have to be, it can flow with your schedule. But the idea is that we're still doing these self-care things somewhere in our day.
And that's it. Is it for me? It works best at the beginning of the day, but that's me. That's who I am. That
Yes.
doesn't have to be the only way. And I've told people, if you go outside your home to work, you get a lunch hour. Instead of sitting in the lunchroom with colleagues that you probably don't have a whole lot about, you're probably sick of talking to all the time, don't want to hear more of their stories or rehash what was on TV, go sit in your car. Do your journaling, do your mindfulness, eat your lunch in just quietness. If you're not taking your car to work, is there an unused space in the office that you can use? Is there someplace you can go, a park, a short walk away? Find those little times for yourself. And you'll really be able to see over the course of time how your life is transformed and how your mindset grows.
I think that's just it, is when we find these pocket times and we start with whatever is working for us, that's what actually helps to release some of those traumas and limiting beliefs in us, is that we're giving ourself space to say, oh, that doesn't even make sense anymore. That's not who I am because I see it on paper, or I write down what my fears are in terms of whatever situation I'm in. And it makes the biggest difference. And so I think what you're saying is wherever it is in your day, but the question right now is use your curiosity to look for what works in your schedule to make sure it happens and then pencil it in. Don't just say, oh, well, I'm going to get to that. Start stacking it next to something that you're already doing. If it's something in bed, you want to journal right before you go to sleep or gratitude, pick that time that works for you and start setting it up. So like you said, in the morning, you had all your stuff sitting right there. Well, if you do it at night, have all your stuff sitting by your nightstand and make it so that it's easy for you. It's not something that you're trying hard to like, oh, where did all that go? And it's just one more thing I need to do. It's the ease of it and deciding what works for you.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
And so so in our opposite, wow, I've got a little tongue tied there. I'm
That's okay.
drinking
I
my
had that
tea.
last week.
I'm drinking my tea because it's like the throat's like after all these interviews have been going out. But you know what? I am not stopping because we're gonna get this. Want to get as much as we can out and talking to all you wonderful women and moms. It's so rejuvenates my spirits. I'm hoping it's doing the same for the audience as well. And in fact, I'm not hoping, I know those that are listening out there are getting some substance from today. And so tell us a little bit more about your journey in this process. I know that the episode that we did, we were doing, so I'm going to preface that the episode that is released today is something that we were doing in between the midst of talking back and forth. So it wasn't necessarily your typical tell me your story and all this. So let's make sure that the audience does know your story.
So my story begins at about 44, and I hit a tipping point, and the tipping point was my son, our oldest son, getting ready to go away for university. And what that did is that really made me start to question who I was, because I realized that our youngest son would also soon be moving away and going away to college or university. And that made me turn inwards and start looking at, well, who am I beyond being wife and mom? I didn't realize that it was actually an identity crisis that I was going through. And the scary part is I didn't know. I had no clue of who I was beyond being wife and mom. And I think that's because a lot of us Gen X women, we move very quickly from being daughters to wives to mothers. And we never really had that time in between to really discover who we are. And if you don't do it in your 20s, then chances are it's going to hit you in your 40s and 50s. Unfortunately for me, is that it brought me down to my lowest point. I got down to rock bottom. And and one day I was really desperate. And I realized that this isn't what I wanted anymore. And I didn't know how to pull myself out of, the tailspin that I was in. And I did something very uncharacteristic. I call down to the universe, God, whatever your higher power is. I didn't even really think much about having one at that time, but I just called down to something higher than myself. And I'm like, just please give me one thing. Give me one thing that I can do right now to pull myself out of this tailspin. And a few minutes passed and I got quiet and I started to think about if I don't want to be this person anymore. And by this person, it doesn't mean I'm discounting being a wife and mother. I didn't want to be the person that didn't know who I was and that, was really letting life run me. I wasn't living my life. I was letting life happen to me. If I don't want to be that person anymore, then who do I want to be? And that's when I started thinking of a version of my future self. Who was this person? I got curious. How did she spend her time? How did she think? How did she feel? What was important to her? And I wrote down 5 simple statements about that future version of myself. And then I just started writing those 5 simple statements out every morning. Over time, I then turned those statements into affirmations. And then I tied them to a why. Why was that statement important to me? And I continued writing those statements out every morning. It is part of my journaling practice. That's how I begin my practice every morning. I've been doing that for over 5 years now. And those statements are what I now call my why formations because it's more than an affirmation. It's my why, it's my affirmation.
Yeah.
And those simple statements, I know it sounds so stupid and easy, but those simple statements have brought me from being at this lowest level of depressed. I was unemployed. I was unhappy. I was unwell in every aspect of the word to absolutely thriving in life. I call it going from hot mess to badass because I was a hot mess. Now, that's not to say I still don't have my hot mess days. I mean, that happens, but those are just when you're a hot mess and you have a hot mess day, it's just a day. You don't get stuck. You don't think that this is
Yeah.
forever because your badass is there. You know that you're moving forward and you're rocking midlife. And that's just how I live my life now is I live my life. Life isn't living me.
I love that so much. And it reminds me of my own story too. And I just did it a little bit sooner with the kids in terms where they're a little bit younger, but it was just that identity of all of a sudden they're starting to go to school and having those pockets of time and just feeling that fog. And it's like, wait, what am I doing with myself? It's like, do I want to go back to teaching? Nope. But what am I going to do? And just
Yeah.
and it's that big question of what do we do? And then that's what leads us to figuring that out. And that's what I also want to lead into tomorrow night as we're doing the women's circle, because that's a place for us to come together to really come think about and to really come into that inner self and to figure those out. And so sometimes we don't know what the answers are. This is a place to start that process in a different way and to really just learn to speak from your heart because we don't necessarily know how to do that. And trying to do that always by ourselves isn't necessarily going to help. But when we start to do it together as a group in a safe space, it just opens up your heart a little bit more. We have a comment. Hi, Sharon. A comment from Sharon saying, I think most women have hot mess days. I think we all do. We
But
do,
that's
right?
it, is that we embrace them. And it's funny because um my mother used to say when I was a kid, she goes, I'd get you dressed. And within 5 minutes, I have an older sister. She's 18 months older. She goes, I'd get you girls dressed. And within 5 minutes, you look like you'd been dragged through a bush backwards. Hair all over the place, clothes disheveled. That's just part of who I am. I used to think it was a negative thing, but now I laugh at my hot mess. Now I know it's just this quirk. You're going to run into this stuff, and it's how you choose to look at it. Are
And
you
I
going
think
to let
now
it keep you stuck, or are you going to keep moving forward?
right. I think now it's like more when you're doing the self-care, it's like, well, those are the days I'm gonna give myself grace. Like I just need to
Yeah.
take it slower. I know that and this is gonna pass. But the problem is when you don't think it's gonna pass. That's
Yes.
as you were saying,
That's when you get stuck.
that's when you get stuck. And then that's when you need to get something else moving in some other direction. But in general, I mean, when you're going and thriving in life, we're still going to have our moments where we get irritable, or we didn't get enough food, or whatever it is, and just things aren't going right, or PMSing, or whatever it is, that you're just going to have those days. And our hormones are out of whack at times, and Midlife doesn't help with that is you have many episodes on that too with the hormone regulations and everything. So if you're struggling with that, I suggest going to check out some of her podcasts because I've been listening to a couple of them as well, trying to get into that regulation and stuff and figuring those things out. And it really does help once we go into that. But we are running out of time. As much as I love talking to you, we're running out of time today. And I know you have something you need to get to. So why don't you tell everyone how they can get a hold of you? And just remember that her episode is being released today, 1 p.m. Central Time, right on Spotify. I'm working to get everything over to Apple. It will be there shortly. I promise you, opening up all the networks and stuff, but everything is live on Spotify, or you can go to connectingmamas.com/podcast and just click the links just to go through if you're not sure where to go. But
the best place to connect with me, you can head over to my website, which is therollercoasterpodcast.com. And if you click on start here, that's where you can get a free audio course. And that's basically, I walk you through the process that I use to go from a hot mess to a badass. And it's called 3 Steps to Go from Hot Mess to Badass and Start Rocking Midlife. And also on the website, you can catch all of my episodes if you don't know how to find them on Spotify and YouTube. And if you want to, you can even pop me an email.
And so I want to thank everyone for coming today, but any final last words for us, Lucie?
Oh, stop being scared. Be courageous. Find your mama genius and start living it. If somebody had told me 5 years ago that I would have a podcast, I've been going for, I'm almost up to 330 episodes and writing not just my first book, but a second book, I wouldn't have believed it. But I did it because I had the courage to find my mama genius and I started living it.
Oh, I love that. And circle right back to yes, and if you're struggling with that, that's why we come to community to figure out what is our genius and get the support. And because these ideas come in infancy and they need nurturing to get out into the world. And when we're with supportive women, because I know we've all been burned by other people at times and think, oh, I can't hang out with women. We just need to find the supportive ones that are right for us to share those. And we do need to guard them till we find that right spot, because these ideas are infancy, but we need to let them grow into maturity and support each other in doing that. Because when we do it together, we rise them up. So thank you, everyone. And we'll see you shortly later this afternoon for some more Q&As. Come join us. The next one, I believe, is going to be Eliza Bloom. And we'll talk a lot more about women's circles and so much more goodness coming today. We have 3 more interviews today. So come join us and we'll talk to you later. Bye, everyone.